Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today is Tennessee political legend and right to life and death with dignity advocate John J. Hooker. John J., we mentioned one of the groups in the last segment. We mentioned that one of the groups that's coming to your aid has been the Davidson County grand jury. Tell us what you did and what the grand jury did in order to try to support your efforts.
The grand jury is a marvelous thing. Most people don't have any reason to know much about the grand jury, but the grand jury is unelected. The names are pulled out of their hat, and yet they're the most powerful body in the state of Tennessee. They can indict the governor, the chief of police, anybody else they want to. They are the ultimate authority in terms of who goes to trial. And they had a very fine man named Whit Simpson, who was the foreman, and former overseas pilot for, forgot which airline, but for many years. And I called him up and said, look, I'd like to come down there, which any citizen can do. And he was nice enough to say, come on. And I went down there, and a room full of folks, and just one citizen to another. I'm unelected, they're unelected, but there we are. And we both love the state, and so I put it on them, told them, look here's the problem.
And they made a report.
And they made a report, and I brag a little bit. He says, the report says, that they overwhelmingly approved of what I was saying, which was that the law that we now have is that deprives you of a choice to how you want to leave this hotel. That deprives you of that choice, that law should be changed. And so I sent a copy of the grand jury report to every member of the legislature.
Did you get any response?
I haven't yet, but I think I will. I'm certain I will at some point.
I know that this death with dignity thing has given you a lot of focus for your life in these difficult days for you. But I can also tell in talking to you before we started the show today, there are always other causes that appeal to you, and one you're concerned about right now is legal education and what the legal community and the law schools are not doing in terms of training modern day lawyers.
Well, my enemies, of which there were many, I was a liberal. Beginning in '66, standing up for civil rights, '70 against the war in Vietnam. And so while we had a tremendously loyal constituency, I had that jingle for John Jay, we had a lot of people who were really on our side, but we had other people who were very equally as much against us. And so I've been a controversial person in public life in Tennessee. And once I didn't get elected, I wanted to have Jack Kennedy used to say, one man can make a difference and every man should try. And so when I didn't get elected, the reason I ran for public office was to try to reform the government with inside the government. Then when I didn't get elected, I tried to reform the government with outside the government. And I'm a lawyer.
Which is harder outside the government.
Pardon me?
It's harder outside the government.
Much harder. But a lawyer is by rule, so the Supreme Court is what we call a public citizen, because he swears to support the Constitution, unlike an ordinary citizen. And so I've tried to use my law license to challenge the government, and I very much believe in the rule of law. And I happen to have I'm the direct descendant of William Blount, who drafted the first Constitution, and another man who was 1870 that drafted an amendment. And so all my life I have been in love with the Constitution. I'm a friend of the Constitution, and I have, in that regard, challenge these judges. The Constitution says judges shall be elected by the qualified voters of the state. And when I lost the governor's race, because I lost and the Democrats were afraid that these Democratic judges were going to lose, they changed the law and had the governor appoint.
And you don't think current lawyers, nor those being trained, are being given the kind of emphasis in their training and in their activities to be more active in the way you're talking about?
Yeah, you got it. There's a very distinguished professor here whose name is Tracy George, who's invited me to come speak to the law school, which I want to do. And I'm going to talk to the law school about two things. Number one, they don't really teach you about Tennessee Constitution. And that's fundamental. That is the core of the situation. So I'm going to talk to him about that. And then secondly, I'm going to talk to him about the proposition that lawyers got a license not just so they make a living practicing law and representing somebody else. They've got a duty to the public to educate the public about what the Constitution says. And I spent thousands of hours trying to do that. And I hope the people who are listening, and we've got a new president of the Tennessee Bar Association, a guy by the name of Bill Harbison, who's a really quality man, and I'm talking to him about it, that we've got to get lawyers on the proposition that they have a duty to educate the public as to what their real rights are, because we've transformed this democracy from a government of the people by the people to a government of the money by the money, or a government of the government by the government, and largely because the lawyers have failed to stand up, and they've let these laws come pass that shouldn't have ever come to pass.
You live for a quest, don't you, Judge?
Sir?
You live for a quest, don't you?
You'll bet your bottom dollar.
Let's talk about Nashville very briefly. You've seen this city go from Prohibition times when you were first born to the Music City to It City. Have we changed and developed in ways you would have never dreamed?
Oh, it's unbelievable, you know, and I don't know that we give proper credit. First of all, Belly Riley was a good mayor. Ben West was a good mayor. Belly Riley was a good mayor. Bill Purcell a good mayor. Dick Fulton. And Bredesen. We've been very fortunate that we've had this wonderful leadership. And I happened to have lunch last week with Megan Barry. And I was just first time I'd had a chance to really sit down and talk to her. And she is very, very smart and very dedicated to the situation. We're fortunate to have her be the next mayor of Nashville, or to be the mayor of Nashville. I'm very hopeful for the future.
Judge Hooker, once again, thank you for coming on the show. We hope we have the opportunity to invite you to come back and join us again as you continue the Death with Dignity and the many other quests that have always marked your career.
God bless.
And thank you very much. And thank you for joining us this week on Inside Politics. Hope you can be back here again for a future show. If you can't get enough politics in the meantime, go to News Channel 5 Network. You'll find my Capitol View commentary there. There's a new commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.